Hey guys, my name's Sam. Welcome to PrepMedic. This week's video, we are reviewing a very small pocket guide to save a life. This is the In Extremis guide by Special Operations Medicine. So if you're wondering why I've been wearing a hat the last couple videos, it's basically because I have a newborn at home and I don't have time to go to a barber's. But this week's video, we are reviewing the In Extremis guide. This is a very small pamphlet guide that walks you through the first 5 minutes of treating a casualty and a little bit beyond. So we're going to go through this. I'm going to tell you kind of what it has in it, and then we're going to talk about some of the things I think they should change and some of the things I really like about it. So this guide right here is in a pamphlet format, which basically just means that you can lay it all out and kind of read one protocol after another. This is very reminiscent of the guides you get in ACLS PALS if you've ever taken one of those. So it's kind of a familiar form factor for me at any rate. Now, what's kind of cool about this is you can just lay it out and you can kind of go through your algorithms one by one. So on the front here, we have our MARCHE algorithm. So you've got massive bleeding, airway, respiration, circulation, hypothermia management, head injury reassessment, and evacuation prep. Kind of a mouthful, but there's a lot of good information. Now, on the other side, you have your care under fire, active threat mitigation, your EMS evac report checklist, delayed evacuation care considerations, some basics of splinting, and then mass casualty scenario guidelines as well. So you notice that each one of these has a little checkbox on it. So as you're going through the checklist, if you hand this to somebody else, you could just have them check off each box as they go to make sure you're hitting every point that's presented. So really quick, just kind of looking at the format here, everything in your MARCHE assessment is pretty self-explanatory. It's stuff that you have seen before. So like things right here, when we start the massive bleeding, establish security safety perimeter. If the situation is not safe, move yourself and patient to safety. Call for help, treat the massive bleeding. And it talks about applying direct pressure, applying tourniquets, packing junctional sites, and then also discusses what happens if the bleeding does not stop. Same things for airway. We're assessing airway. Can patient talk? Yes, no. And then moving on to decision tree. We've got little graphics down here. So you've got the head tilt, chin lift, and the jaw thrust, because it talks about it. It talks about casualty positioning in both of these. Talks about kind of how to assess the body. Same thing down here. It talks about how to check a pulse. And then on the back, I think my favorite graphic in the entire thing is the splinting graphic that just kind of talks about different ways you can splint extremities and even do like a pelvic binder as well. So there are some decent graphics on here. So let's talk about the good and what I believe is room for improvement on this guide. So first and foremost, it's really cool that there's a guide that's coming out that's predominantly for the civilian sector. I think this is a great thing to have. Now, when we talk about guides and stuff you can read through, I've spent an entire career reading protocols on a very tiny phone screen in very stressful environments. It can be done, but it takes practice. I train on my protocols all the time. When we do ACLS and PALS class, if we just hand a nurse one of the pamphlets, they are stuck there, sitting there trying to read it and find what they're supposed to do, and that's in a training situation. So these are valuable as a reference. If you forget like one thing, you're having a brain blank, and you can just look under here and see, oh yeah, like I need to remain vigilant in care under fire. Or like, hey, I want to remind myself how a splint works for a forearm injury. It's really great as a reference. If you have no training, if you have not looked at this before, if you put this in your ready pack and you're just hoping that when emergency hits, you can pull this out and start going A to Z and be proficient, you are fooling yourself. When you get stressed, you start losing the ability to comprehend very simple concepts, and reading gets a lot harder, especially if you're not a great reader to begin with, such as myself. So it takes training and practice, and it takes training and practice with this guide. Where I think this shines is actually in the training environment. If you are training with a buddy or a group, having somebody look through this and almost use this as a grading sheet as you go is a great way to gain proficiency in these skills and make sure you're not skipping over something or creating a training scar by doing something wrong repeatedly. So I think that's really great there. And like I said, if you are proficient with this, if I know exactly how to get to the airway page on this guide, it's going to be a lot easier to look up very specific things like, hey, how do I do a head tilt chin lift? It's really easy to go to this page and look at it. So That's not a flaw of this. That's just something that you have to be aware of. Now, things that I think could use some improvement is there are some decision trees here where it's like yes, no, but they're all laid out as checkboxes. So if you're not familiar with the guide, it's really easy to kind of go to the checklist, yes, no, where do I go from here in the decision tree? So I'd like some differentiation in their bullet points of just, hey, this is a step we're looking at, or maybe we're splitting our decision here. It's hard to do in a paper this small, but I think there are some little formatting changes they could implement. When I first got this, I was kind of disappointed because it was $15 and it feels very lightweight and very flimsy. Now, I didn't hulk it and try to rip it. I'm sure I could rip it just fine there, but with little attempts at tearing, it does not tear. It is waterproof. I dabbed an edge in it. It's not deforming at all. It could crumple up, but I think this is actually way sturdier than it feels. And that's a trap I've fallen into a couple times on this channel of talking about well, it doesn't feel sturdy, but it's just modern material. So I think that when you get this, you're not going to feel like it's going to hold up a ton, but I think it will. That being said, if you're really worried about it, you could always throw this in a laminator and just crease it back into the trifold design, or just laminate it straight out and use it as a pocket guide this way if you've got a pack that's big enough to accommodate it. So honestly, overall, I think this thing is awesome. I think it's cool to have some reference material. It's really good to have. Any professional in healthcare is going to have reference material on them. It doesn't matter how well you know it. I have my protocols on a phone app. I've got a bunch of drug calculators there. I can look up all sorts of stuff in Hippocrates and MD Calc. We're not memorizing absolutely everything. And every doctor has decision trees they're looking at. Every nurse is going to have things. So don't feel like, this is, admitting weakness or you don't know your stuff. Even professionals are carrying reference material. So overall, I think this thing is awesome. Right now, it is selling for about $15. They are a small company, so go ahead and support them. I know I'm showing the lettering on here, but there's no really way to review this without doing that. So I think the last part of this is none of this information is new or exciting. This is all publicly available information, but it is put together in a very cohesive format. So when you're paying them for this guide, you are paying them for kind of the collection of the information into one place, and you're also ensuring that is the most accurate and up-to-date info. If you've had this, when you buy this in now 5 years, you're watching this video and you still have the same guide, it probably won't be relevant anymore. Things will have probably changed. So just be aware of that medicine changes over time, and we have to make sure our reference material is updating with the current science. So, all in all, I think this is a really cool idea. I think it's a great guide if you're looking to get something to just reference quick or use in training, refresh your knowledge a little bit. It's coming from very knowledgeable people, so I don't think you have to worry about this being inaccurate. I looked through it and I couldn't find any inaccuracies in it. So I will leave a link down below for this product. Right now it is selling for about $15. Who knows what that's going to do in the near future, but as always, go check them out and I will see you next week.